Hello and welcome back. We are now on module number 11. And to follow up module 10, of course, we find ourselves here with intimate and romantic relationships and dating. I am Kiana Brathwaite, soon to be Kiana Jennings White. And the way that I didn't really define this because for me it's self-explanatory. It evolved from marital. Initially it was marital. And then it went to dating and FWBs, or friends with benefits. And now it's evolved into intimate and romantic relationships and dating. So you get to hear the evolution of one of the aspects that I have, and I'll share a little bit. The reason why it evolved was I was in a marriage for 26 years, and after a lot of trying and staying and, attempting to work through what needed to be worked through, I had to acknowledge that we had grown apart and we're heading in two different directions. And that is why it went from marital to dating and friends with benefits. And now it's shifted into intimate and romantic because the dating and friends with benefits doesn't really align with who I am and what I'm looking for in an intimate romantic relationship. Hence, why it is now termed that. I wanted to make sure that this aspect that I pay attention to speaks into exactly who and where I am. And that's also why I say that they can, and I really believe they should evolve, right? And I don't like to should on things, but this is one of those where I recognize that where we start is not where we end up, and it is not where we journey through. So, yes, allow your parts of yourself to evolve with you. Give them permission and hold space for that. Love on them and be compassionate and kind with yourself as it happens. And I wanted to jump into, because like I said, this is really self-explanatory, but I wanted to kind of jump in and use this as an opportunity to talk about what the evolution could quite possibly look like. And this is not an end-all, be-all. This is what it's going to look like for you. But this is what the journey has looked like for me, and this is a lot of different things, habits that I have that I formed that came from a recognition and an awareness that what I was doing in the place was not working. I'll take my health, for instance, when I was talking about the weight gain. And by getting to that point, I actually had to give myself a little grace in that process because there was a point where I was like, why is this not working? And I had to sit with myself and say, hey, while you may want this to come off or change now because you've made the decision and you're aware, it did not take you a day or a week to put on these pounds. So it may take some time, and that's okay. And that was really a 7-year journey. Ooh, maybe 10. No, 2014 was when it picked up. And the weight loss came probably around 2021, 2022 after a significant bunch of shifts and doing a lot of inner work. And now I've been able to sustain that weight loss for 3 years, which is phenomenal. However, even with the weight loss process, there were habits that I started that suited me very much at the time. And I have not continued them for a multitude of reasons, sometimes resources, sometimes time, sometimes capacity, sometimes I just don't want to. And there are times where life would kind of get in the way and I would have to put it on the back burner and then come back to it, because that's the other part of evolution. Does this particular practice, habit, belief, whatever, is it meeting you exactly where you are right now? And sometimes the answer is no, and that's an okay answer. And what that means is I need to put this down. It was the same thing for me in planning. I was a planner probably for a good 15 to 20 years, well, more than that because I used to plan in high school too. So I'd say at least 20, 25 years. And then all of a sudden it just wasn't working for me anymore. And I got frustrated with it and was like, why isn't this working? And I would try to force it to work and, make it work. And it wasn't. And I just got to the point where I was like, okay, this isn't working anymore. I'm going to let this go and shelf it, go over here and do something different, which was kind of the antithesis of who I was at the time, but I had to release and surrender. And now planning looks very different for me, but I still plan. And so when we're forming these, I used to get rigid with some of them sometimes and how they had to show up and how I had to do them all the time to form a habit. And then the rigidity would wear off and it would release, and then I would float back into it when it made sense, or when it called to me, or when I was ready, or when I had capacity. And so I wanted to share that with you here just because this was an ever-evolving aspect, so it seemed appropriate, but also I just wanted to give a bit of room and permission to say it's okay if you play with these and leave them and come back. I had an instance where something was introduced to me probably at the beginning of my entrepreneurial career, and I tried to implement it, and I just would get frustrated, it wouldn't work. And probably recently I picked it back up again, and now it flows very easily. So that's also, you may move through this, finish up the modules, and not do anything with it for a time, a month, 6 months, 5 years. And then maybe it'll come back to you somehow, and you'll be like, that thing, and now you're ready for it. So I also wanted to share that as a possibility because I've experienced that too. And there's a reason for it. Just because something comes across your desk, and I mean your, proverbial desk, your virtual desk, your internal world desk, right, your mind, does not mean that you're ready for it. It just means that it kind of does mean you're ready for it in a sense of being exposed to it, but it doesn't mean that you're ready to implement or for it to receive it. So give yourself space. Allow these things to flow in as they feel right, and enjoy it. Play. See what that looks like for you. How does it manifest, in your day-to-day, as I usually say. And, you can journal about it. You can talk to a friend about it. You can create an accountability situation around it. There's just so many ways in which you can support yourself with this practice and implementation once you sit with them and start to understand what they look like and feel like for you and define them. As always, I'm grateful for the space that you hold, for the time that you're sharing with me. I know it's precious. And I will hear you talk to you in the next module. Until then, take care.